China and Russia are elevating their partnership to unprecedented heights. The two nations want to strengthen their relationship and surpass their $200 billion trade goal on time. Furthermore, experts believe there is still a great deal of room for bilateral collaboration between these two strong nations. The world is intriguingly observing as the titan of natural resources, Russia, and the rising power, China, establish an unprecedented alliance. Furthermore, the West is keeping a close eye on this no-limits collaboration because it's unclear how deep-going it is. The Foreign Ministry of Russia has stated a desire for direct discussions with Beijing's top officials. Furthermore, rumors indicate that China's senior diplomat may pay a visit to Moscow, which would be a major step toward deepening their relationship. There is little doubt that these two countries have great potential in store for the future, with the world keenly observing this blossoming partnership. To begin with, China has held back from calling Russia's actions in Ukraine an invasion or making any other negative statements about them. Furthermore, the conflict is consistent with the Russian government's depiction of it as a special military operation. President Vladimir Putin has declared that in reaction to the harsh sanctions imposed by the West on Moscow for the war in Ukraine, Russia will be turning its attention to Asia. And now, after centuries of considering the West to be the center of innovation in politics, technology, and the economy, it is turning its attention to China. In January, the Russian daily Vedomosti reported that Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, was due to visit Moscow in February. According to the report, Wang might pay Putin a visit when he's in Russia. Although the purpose of Wang's visit is unclear, it might be related to China's President Xi Jinping's upcoming trip to Russia. But Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said she was unaware of any preparations to meet with Wang Yi during a routine briefing. In 2022, trade volume between China and Russia had a significant surge. Their trade also demonstrated the limits of Western sanctions by giving Russia's faltering economy a lifeline. Moscow has been buying more microchips and semiconductors from China, which are crucial to its military campaign in Ukraine. And this was disclosed in a study published in Washington, D.C., by the nonprofit Free Russia Foundation. China increased its purchases of Russian goods as a result of Russia selling more energy, more than offsetting the decreases from the US, the UK, and certain EU nations. The United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom have reportedly decreased their engagement with Russia, as per media reports. Furthermore, China is today Russia's most important trading partner by a wide margin. In the meantime, since April, the Russian Customs Agency has not made available monthly data on imports and exports. Incorrect predictions, guesses, and disparities in import delivery, they declared, are things they wish to avoid. The restrictions imposed by the West haven't prevented China from becoming into a supplier of prospective military technologies. Furthermore, data indicates that China made a $3.3 million sale of unmanned aerial vehicles to Russia last year. According to the research, UAV exports to Russia resumed in October and November from the United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, China, and Singapore. Furthermore, last year saw a 34% increase in Russian imports of semiconductors and microchips developed in China. Therefore, the total value of Russia's chip imports will increase from $1.82 billion in 2022 to $2.45 billion in 2023, despite Western sanctions targeted at that trade. For many years, there has been a determined push to improve the business ties between China and Russia. Additionally, a $55 billion gas pipeline and an increase in the value of the yuan in Russia are part of this. Moscow authorities have long been concerned that China could draw China into its economic sphere. However, such concerns have expanded along with the economic connection. The information was obtained from a data source that specializes in value chain analysis for businesses by the Free Russia Foundation and the E-University in Madrid. Most of the report's crew consisted of ex-officials and Russian economists who now reside abroad. Among them are Sergei Alexashenko, a former deputy head of the central bank, and Vladimir Milov, a leader of the opposition and former deputy minister of energy. The data set was verified through comparison with data from Russia's 2022 trading partners and Russian official trade figures, which were published through January 2022. The data file features several gaps, including records that have been partially blacked out because of military transactions, according to the study. Additionally, between March and September of last year, trade volume between Russia and China increased by almost $27 billion. This is a $90 billion increase over the same period in 2021, according to the research. The rise was mainly caused by higher sales and prices of crude oil. Furthermore, Russia started diverting its oil supply to China as well as other markets like Turkey and India, after the West's reduction in its imports of Russian energy supplies. Furthermore, Russia became more dependent on Chinese imports. From March to September, About 36% of imports came from China. Furthermore, this is a notable rise above the 21% recorded during the same time in 2022. It also forbade the selling of high-tech products, like as the semiconductors Russia utilizes in its nuclear weapons, to the Russian invasion forces. Long-time suppliers of high-tech goods to Russia, including Germany, the Netherlands, and South Korea, decreased their output in the interim. Imports from China doubled as a result. Additionally, the value of Chinese semiconductor shipments to Russia rose from $200 million in 2022 to over $500 million in the previous year, primarily in the months of March through September. An increase in the total number of deals struck is also noted in the study. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkey also supplied semiconductors to Russia. You see, since these countries don't have a sizable domestic semiconductor sector, Russia can easily purchase chips that are readily available from wholesalers outside. The research also mentioned China's ability to manufacture a wide range of low-tech semiconductors domestically. Therefore, the fact that Russia is buying them is not surprising. Numerous chips are also used in military equipment. This suggests that even though they have access to plenty of other chips, they can encounter chip shortages. According to US suspicions, Chinese companies are helping Russia with its operations in Ukraine. Additionally, the US has learned that some Chinese companies are giving Russia non-lethal assistance for use in the crisis in Ukraine. According to a person with direct knowledge of the matter, officials are communicating their concerns to the Chinese government. According to the source, the assistance and economic cooperation that we are seeing do not amount to a serious breach of the sanctions. China has now been threatened with punishment by the United States if it continues to provide Russia with weaponry to use against Ukraine. China has been critiquing the sanctions imposed by the West on Russia, arguing that they will only make matters worse. In addition, the US fears China would violate trade sanctions in order to provide Russia with commodities. Furthermore, the US thinks China might have suggested exporting deadly weaponry. China has received warnings from the US Department of State and the White House press secretary over the repercussions of its backing of Russia in the Ukrainian crisis. Ned Price also told reporters that if Chinese businesses were to supply Russia in the situation in Ukraine, the US would be worried. He indicated that during US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's upcoming visit to Beijing, this would be discussed. China has said in the open that it has no involvement in the fighting. Additionally, Putin confessed that Xi Jinping was worried about the war after Russia suffered setbacks. According to statistics from LSEG and trade sources quoted by Reuters, Russia's diesel exports by sea decreased by 11% in October compared to September due to the temporary restriction on exports of Russian diesel and significant refinery maintenance. In response to rising crude prices and a declining Russian currency, Russia shocked the markets on September 21 by declaring a temporary ban on gasoline and diesel exports in an effort to stabilize local fuel prices. Exports of gasoline and diesel to all nations were temporarily prohibited, with the exception of the four former Soviet states of Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. The majority of Russia's diesel exports, which were formerly destined for the EU, have been redirected to Turkey, the Middle East, North and West Africa, and Brazil in South America since the EU imposed an embargo on the import of Russian fuel in early February. Due to Russia's limited storage capacity, which, if filled, may force refiners to lower processing rates, an extended restriction on diesel shipments was not anticipated by analysts, who were also impacted by the prohibition on such exports. On October 6, Russia partially relaxed the export restriction on diesel, and soon after, seaborne exports were allowed to continue. As long as the diesel producer sells at least 50% of the fuel to the domestic market, the export prohibition on diesel and gasoil transported by pipeline to seaports was repealed. In order to avoid storage capacity overload and crude processing rate reductions at domestic refiners, the export prohibition on diesel was loosened. The export of gasoline and diesel via rail are still prohibited, only seaborne diesel exports are now permitted. Preventing a surge in fuel prices at the wholesale level while increasing fuel supply to the domestic market is the aim. This week, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak informed the media that until some of the volumes that Russian refineries produce have nowhere to go, Russia has no immediate intentions to relax the partial restriction on fuel exports that was placed in place in September. What do you think of China and Russia's partnership? And do you think they can overthrow the US economy? Let me know down below. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.